Hi guys, it's Erin. Welcome back to the farm. Today's an absolutely gorgeous sunny day and we have a couple of projects to do. First things first, I'm going to take cuttings of our sedum. This is Autumn Joy sedum. It's been growing in this spot for years and years and years. And I want to take a bunch of cuttings. I've talked about it a few times recently that I'm starting to turn over sections of my big field into perennial beds. And sedum, this kind of sedum is a really good cut flower. I can use it really at any stage. I could cut it at this stage and use it as just foliage. When it starts to put on flowers, I can cut it with green flowers, or I can wait until the fall when the flowers redden up and I can use them as just a red disc type flower. These guys do fantastic, and I can cut them all the way up to close to frost, and they will hold up, and they're just fantastic. And I figure I can take about 50 cuttings out of what's here. I have some back there too, but this whole section right here, it could use a bit of thinning anyhow. I can take the cuttings from here and then and that'll fill up about half of one of the beds that I have out back if I use the same spacing that I've used for everything else, which I probably will. So that's the plan for today. That's the first thing we're gonna do. And I also need to do a succession sowing of sunflowers, so we'll get that done at the same time. Now, I've taken cuttings from all kinds of different plants. I've never done it for sedum, though I've done cuttings of other kinds of succulents, and it's really pretty simple. So I'll walk you through what my plan is after I cut a bunch of these stems. I figure I can probably get 2 or 3 cuttings off of each one of these. So if I'm going for 50, I'll probably take 20 cuttings or 20 stems out of here. You won't even notice the difference. And that's likely good enough to fill up a 50 count tray. So I'm gonna set up the camera, show you what I'm doing, and take a bunch of stems. I want to come all the way in deep and cut down towards the bottom. And then this stem, I can probably get 3 out of this one stem. So like I said, I'm gonna cut 20 of these, and then we'll take them to the greenhouse and do the actual cuttings. Okay, so now we've got all of our stems. I think I should have enough to do all this. This is a 50 count tray with it's a deep root tray, so that there's room for these stems to fit in here. What I'm gonna do is take this Sharpie and make a hole in each one of these so that I don't scratch up the cutting as I put it in. So let me do that real quick. Make sure there's... So this soil is dry. I did not water it. My experience with taking cuttings from other other succulents would say that you want, when you take cuttings and you have an open, right after you cut the stem, you need this to have a chance to callus over the cut end of it. So I'm gonna do that. I am gonna sprinkle some water in here, but I don't wanna start with soaking wet water. I'm gonna give it a chance to callus over because it can rot if there's too much moisture before it calluses over for a sedum. I have read about how to do this, and it's pretty self-explanatory, very similar to any other kind of sedum. So we're gonna give it our best. These are gonna be in this tray for a while, so that's partly why I wanted the deep roots. The other part is that I want to make sure that I have a long enough stem to make it, to allow for enough root development. So let's talk through how this is gonna work. This stem here, I'm gonna cut right here directly above this leaf. And then I'm gonna do it again right here directly above this leaf. If you watched my previous videos about taking dahlia cuttings, it's very similar. This little stem right here, set these over here for a second. I'm gonna take off these bottom couple 3 leaves, and these little nodes where the leaves were, that's where roots will come from. So this one, I'm also gonna cut off the very tip because I don't want it to work on keeping all of this moisture hydrated, or all of these leaves hydrated. I want it to work on putting out roots. So taking all of that off of there, and maybe one more. And then this guy, I'm gonna put, here, this one that you can see. This guy, I'm gonna put right here in this cell, right up to the leaves, and tap it in there. Now I'm gonna do the same with this one. So we cut off all this bottom. I'm gonna cut it again just below to get rid of all that extra stem. Pull off these bottom 3 leaves, and then I'm gonna do the same thing and put it right down in there and tamp in the dirt around it. This one, the leaf is very big. I am gonna cut some of that off. Just like with dahlia cuttings, if you have too much foliage out there, it'll have a hard time keeping it hydrated. Though sedums, because they're a succulent, they do better than most. They can deal with a little bit of drought. That was 2, where's the third one? Where did I set it? Oh, it's right here. And it's gonna be the exact same thing for this one. Take these off. Let's take the third one off. Set it in here and tamp the dirt around. Now I'm gonna do all the rest of these, and then we'll talk about what I'm gonna do after that once this part is done. So these are all in there, all 50 of them. I'm gonna do a little bit of water, and then I'm not gonna water them again for a while. I need to make sure that they have a chance to callus over and start working on roots. It'll take them probably a month to really start putting roots out, which it's the beginning of June, so that would be early July. And if I can get them to grow well enough, I'm hoping that in late August, early September, I can put them out into the field and they can root in before winter comes and before we have a frost that kills them. So that's my goal. And that way, hopefully, I have half a bed of sedum next season. Okay, so there's that. All right, this one is just gonna live in here on the table. And then the last thing for today is sunflowers. Sunflowers are not super complicated. They're really easy to sow. I've done several videos. I certainly did one at the beginning when I sowed my first succession of sunflowers. Generally, I would prefer to use that taller, deep root tray for this. But right now, they're full of other sunflowers and I've just run out. And I used one of the last ones on the sedum. So I'm just going to use a regular 72 count. And within, I imagine within 4 or 5 days, these will be sprouted. I'll be getting the other ones into the ground. And then 10 days from now, I'll do this all over again. I have not done so great this year so far, but I try to sow a round of sunflowers every 10 days to 2 weeks. But like I said, I failed a little bit. I've only got a couple of successions at this point, but I'm trying to get back on it. So the 3 different varieties that I've got is a Pro-Cut Gold Light DMR. DMR stands for Downy Mildew Resistant. I have a Pro-Cut Peach Light and then Pro-Cut White Night. These are all fantastic. They're all fantastic cut flowers. The Pro-Cuts are pollenless, single stem, and they take anywhere between 50 and 65 days generally to go from germination to flower. So they're a quick crop. I can get them in. I can plant these. I can sow these up to the middle of, generally the middle of July before I stop. And they'll have plenty of time to get all the way through harvest before the weather turns. Generally, can never really count on the weather, but on average, I will, like I said, I'll sow these through to the middle of September or middle of July. So I'm not going to go through all of this. It's super easy. 1 seed per cell. They're smaller than like a eating sunflower, but you don't have to do much. Just tamp them in, 1 in each, and then good to go. So I'm going to get these all sown. This soil, unlike the sedum, this soil is dampened, and I will put a cover on these, only not because I need it for the moisture retention or heat. I'll put a cover on them mainly because the birds, because the greenhouse is wide open this time of year, the birds come in here during the day and they will, no kidding, dig up all of these sunflowers and eat them. I've had that happen to me several times. So I'll put a cover on them until they've sprouted, just like anything else earlier in the season. Okay, I'm gonna just get these done real quick. Okay, well, the camera overheated, but while that happened, I got all of 3 of these trays filled with sunflowers. Didn't really miss a whole lot. It's not a super exciting process. I will, like I said, I'm gonna just put covers on them, or I'm gonna water them in, put some covers on them, and then they'll be good to go. All right, that'll do it for this video. Quick, easy projects. Hopefully, cross your fingers that these sedum cuttings will take and I can get them out into the greenhouse or out into the field They really are a fantastic cut flower, especially late in the season. And then these three are just another succession of sunflowers. These guys are one of the last ones, and I need to get them out into the field. They're getting floppy. And this was full, but like I said, a bird came in here and took them out. So got to get them in the ground. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.